mentorship, with business support on an ongoing basis, and also post-investment. In terms of the IDC's financing or funding products, very briefly, we are, being a development finance institution, one of the factors that distinguish us probably mostly from your commercial banks is our ability to be fairly flexible and fairly creative in terms of how we structure our finance. And we are always focused on the sustainability of the business and not overburdening the entrepreneur. Not to say that banks do that, but very often, I think in the case of banks, there's a greater focus on the bottom line and profitability of the enterprise, and nothing wrong with that because they have to equally declare dividends to their shareholders. In the case of the IDC, we are slightly more patient, and our terms and our facilities are equally patient, and very often provide incentives to entrepreneurs in particular industries and also particular categories of entrepreneurs, such as youth, women, black industrialists, entrepreneurs within the green economy, etc. So we've got a range of funding instruments, from debt and equity to quasi-equity. We also provide guarantees, trade finance, bridging finance, and VC, specifically in the new tech and new industry space. We also provide grace periods, both on capital and interest repayments, but all of this obviously focused on the specifics of the business and how soon they'll become operational, how soon they will be able to start turning a profit, all focused, as I said, on a longer term view on the business's sustainability. Then there's a number of special funding schemes, and there's one that I want to highlight this morning, and that's the IDC support to youth enterprises in particular. We've got a scheme named the Grow E Youth Scheme, and the E is standing for employment, where the focus, quite simply, is on ensuring that we support youth-owned enterprises with a particular focus on employment creation. The IDC's response to the massive youth unemployment in South Africa is to empower and to finance and to support youth-owned enterprises for them to create employment for other young people. To this end, our Grow E Youth Scheme have been available in the market for the past 5 years, since the conclusion of the Youth Employment Accord in 2013. And we're very happy to report that we've been able to finance directly youth enterprises to the tune of 4.7 billion rand in the past 5 years, and through that have been able to create just over 7,000 jobs in the process. So that being one of the schemes which we have to offer. Then there's obviously schemes within the agriculture space, agro-competitiveness, the MSEP scheme, and a range of other schemes such as the Black Industrialist Scheme of the Department of Trade and Industry, DTI, which the IDC, together with the National Empowerment Fund, also administer. I can't help but think back, if you'll indulge me for a second, at what Mayor Mashaba said yesterday. I think he referred to one of his first business loans that he received. And he mentioned that he was granted a loan at prime plus 10, if I recall. And we were all gasping for air as he said it. And I think to make matters worse, if I recall, he said it was in the mid-late 80s, and the interest rate, or the prime interest rate at the time, was touching 20%. So that plus 10 would have taken him close to 30%. And I was sitting there in my seat thinking to myself, shame, the mayor was probably the victim of a machonisa at that stage. Now that's not IDC. IDC, through our schemes, just again speaking about the Grow E Youth Scheme, can provide youth-owned enterprises with interest rates as low as prime minus 3%, provided that the enterprise is youth-owned, meaning that it's got greater than 50% youth ownership, and that it has the ability to create jobs. And we've got job efficiencies in terms of the number of jobs that we anticipate for every R1 million that we invest. Now, IDC's approach, particularly to township economies, are no different from our approach to any other economy, apart from the fact that we appreciate that there are certain structural challenges that are faced in our townships still today. And I'm not going to repeat, and I've actually taken out a number of slides, which previous speakers yesterday and also earlier this morning have already touched on, about some of these inherent challenges faced. So I wanted to focus on very much our approach very much our philosophy and our culture and our values when we work in townships. We've adopted a slogan to say we need uncommon strategies for the common good when it comes to township economies. The same applies to mining towns and the rejuvenation of such spatial challenges. What we mean by that is that we need to turn around expenditure trends. And for townships, as one example, to stop just being consumers of goods and services and instead become the producers of those goods and services. So not just also having retail and services businesses in townships, but actually taking manufacturing to the township and ensuring that money can start circulating within the township. I think it was the MTN speaker as well as Professor Armstrong yesterday that shared with us statistics of how quickly a rand leaves the township as opposed to it being reinvested and actually spent in the township. So the IDC's focus is on cooperation, localization, ensuring inclusivity from all sectors within a township. We remain people-centered in our development initiatives. We focus on sustainability as we do in all our businesses, and we specifically look for good work that can strengthen social cohesion and ethical business practices. I just quickly want to highlight these 8 success factors, and this is particularly useful. I was hoping the MEC would be with us a little bit longer this morning, because these are some of the factors, very often when we speak about creating a conducive environment for development. These are 8 factors which the IDC has identified over a number of years, which are really critical for us to bring about meaningful development in townships. These are the factors that ensure that businesses open up in townships, that entrepreneurs see them